I used to think I was the only one, the only guy who had an unhealthy relationship with porn, the only guy who felt ashamed of what I was watching at night behind closed doors. What I didn't realize is that shame was actually fueling the behavior I was trying to escape. Once I learned how to break free from my shame, everything started to change. In this video, I'm going to share how breaking free from shame is actually the key to breaking free from the porn addiction cycle. And I'm going to walk you through a few powerful steps you can take when shame feels the heaviest. So stay tuned. So hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Unhooked podcast, talking about breaking free from porn addiction, or really just any addiction that you might be experiencing. Video games, junk food, social media, any kind of unhealthy compulsive behavior. This is the podcast where we explore how to break free from the chains of addiction at the root source. A few life updates, kind of things to share. It's been a while since I've shared on the podcast. I finished my 75 hard challenge. If you're not sure what that is, go check the episode I did about what 75 hard is and why you might want to do it. I felt amazing at the end of that challenge. So happy I did it. I had a lot of insights. I will probably make another episode exploring some of my key insights and learnings from that experiment. Another update, my High Rocks race is coming up in May, the end of May. So I have just about 1 month left to train for High Rocks. I did complete a High Rocks sim, a High Rocks simulation, which is actually doing the full race. It's an unofficial race, but it was the full High Rocks series. And I did that and I completed it. And again, tons of learnings and things that I got from that. And I might make an episode sharing and exploring some of that. In other news, today's episode is brought to you by me. I am the sponsor of this show. We don't have sponsors, so I am the one sponsoring this show. And I say that to just remind you that the best way to support the show is a couple of ways. One is leave a review, help spread this message because it really does make an impact on people's lives. The people that you might not realize can be benefited by listening to this kind of stuff. It really can save lives. And I'm not saying that as a hyperbole or exaggerating. Things like suicidal ideation can be really strong around sex addictions and porn addictions. And one of the deepest things, as we're going to talk about today, is if you can realize you're not alone, if you can realize this is an issue that affects other people, it really can heal so much of that sense of being alone. So feel free to share the show if you want to, or if you are interested in working with me, you can also do that. You can go check out my website, sign up for a discovery call if you're interested in the group coaching program, which is ongoing, running every week. We have live coaching calls in the community, an amazing course online that you can sign up for. That is fully available, as well as if you're interested in working with me one-on-one. If you want to get support in your life, improve your life, reach your full potential, break free from some of the chains of addiction that might have held you back in the past, that is what coaching is about. And so I would be honored to be your coach. If you're interested, go check out my website, jeremylipkowitz.com. You'll see where to sign up for a free discovery call where I can just tell you about the programs and what's involved if you're interested in signing up. Now on to the core topic for today, which is shame. Shame is in some ways possibly the most important topic when it comes to addiction. It's one of the factors that keeps people locked in addiction for years or decades. And in part, that's because of how shame operates. I mean, shame is this force that makes us feel alone. It's a force that makes us feel like we are inherently broken, and that if other people knew, they would be disgusted, they would be afraid, all kinds of different lies that shame tells us that keeps us from connecting with people. It makes us want to escape, to isolate, to run away, to not be around other people. And because of that can lead to feelings of loneliness, of isolation. It's a very unpleasant thing because we are social creatures. And because of that, when we isolate in our shame, it often leads to wanting to act out to escape the pain of that isolation. This is a side note, but one of the things that's really interesting is solitary confinement in prisons is one of the most horrendous and horrible things you can do to people. And it's because that isolation is so painful for us as humans. So when we isolate, when we feel shame, when we feel broken or wrong or messed up, and what that does is we tend to act out to escape that feeling. So we might then act out with porn, act out with junk food, binging on social media, thirst traps, binging on a couple seasons of some Netflix show, whatever it is, we act out in ways that we're not so proud of. And then because we acted out, we might feel more shame, which leads to this downward spiral. And it's one of the reasons that shame exacerbates addiction. The other reason it exacerbates is because it prevents us from connecting with others. We don't get to realize that we're not alone. We don't get to connect with others. We don't get to talk about the thing that we're ashamed of or embarrassed about. So there's just so many consequences of shame. On top of that, kind of the cherry on top of all of that is just the fact that shame is such an unpleasant experience. It's such a painful emotion to carry shame with you, to carry the burden of feeling inherently flawed or broken. It's one of the biggest pains that I hear from the guys I work with, and I know this myself, feeling like you are an inherently broken person is a pain like no other. I mean, it makes you feel so like such a piece of shit. It's hard to interact with people in a good way, because you have this hidden feeling like if they knew the truth about me, if they knew how messed up I was, or if they knew what I was watching, on Pornhub last night, or whatever it is, it makes it hard for us to really connect with people in that peaceful and easy way where we're, can look ourselves in the mirror and just be proud of who we are. And we can make eye contact with others and not be afraid of whether or not they know what we've been up to. So in this episode, I just want to share a few simple steps that you can take, things that might be helpful for you when you are experiencing shame. And shame can come from anything. It can come from acting out with porn and feeling ashamed of that. It can come from saying something stupid or something you regret and feeling ashamed of that. Shame can come in so many different flavors and colors and sizes, and it can, come when we least expect it. Sometimes I've experienced shame from something that I did 10 or 20 years ago, and I just have this memory of something I did, and it grips you and just makes you feel awful, right? And so it can come out of the blue as well, just a memory. So I want to share some practical things you can do today to alleviate some of the pain, the heaviness of that shame, and get you out of that downward spiral. Because again, for so many guys, it leads to a downward spiral. We feel shame, want to isolate, act out, feel more shame, isolate again. So what are some of the things you can do? The first thing that can be really helpful is to simply talk to yourself like a friend, to focus on self-compassion instead of self-criticism or self-judgment. If you can take the time to say, okay, if a friend came to me struggling with this, what would I say to that friend? How would I treat them? This can start to break down a little bit of that self-judgment and self-criticism. It won't do it completely. And in fact, none of these things that I'm going to talk about will do it completely. But they're all little things that you can do to chip away at the mountain of shame, right? So one is, again, focus on talking to yourself as you would talk to a friend. How would I talk to a friend if they came to me with this? And to really go through that exercise, to think, okay, think of a friend, envision them, bring them into your mind's eye. Imagine them sitting in front of you saying, hey, I'm really struggling with this porn thing or something else. And then imagine what you would say to them. And then just try saying that to yourself, to say, hey, don't worry about it. I see that you're trying. You're not alone. This is a really tough thing. Whatever it is, try speaking to yourself as you would to a friend. Another helpful thing that I find very useful is reflecting on impermanence, or reflecting on how the experience of shame won't last. So there's this phrase that you've probably heard, it's "this too shall pass." Just understanding everything is temporary. It's an emotion that comes and goes. It's not going to be there forever. So when you're feeling that deep mountain of shame on top of you, if you can, to remember impermanence and say, oh, okay, this too shall pass. Like right now, I'm feeling ashamed, but I know this isn't going to be forever. This isn't going to be eternal, right? So focusing on this too shall pass. Another helpful thing, remind yourself of your goodness if you can. So one of the ways that shame shows up is it makes us feel like we're just the worst thing in the world, that we have no redeeming qualities. If somebody knew who we really were, they would shun us or call the police or whatever. If you can, to remind yourself of your goodness, to reflect on some of your positive traits. Are you responsible? Are you a caregiver? Are you, good at listening? Are there times when you've supported other people? These things can remind you of your goodness. Similar to this is to reflect on the fact that shame is not all of who you are. So one behavior doesn't define you. If there's one thing you do, or even a couple things you do, it's not all of who you are. We wouldn't judge any person by, one thing that they do. And so just remember that, this doesn't define you. If you've done something unskillful, that's okay. The next tip is one of the most important, which is to seek out community. So when you are experiencing shame, again, it causes us to isolate, to want to escape. One of the antidotes to shame that can help you heal shame is to get yourself around community, to find friends that you can be around, find a men's group or a support group, a religious affiliation if that's a safe space for you and feels good. Finding ways to be in community, and ideally in an intentional community, or a community that makes space for you to be vulnerable. Shame makes you feel isolated, but knowing that you can be around other people, and especially if they can see you for what's happening, that is so, so healing. If you can find a way to open up about what you're ashamed of or embarrassed about, and they can hold that in safety and compassion, man, I will tell you, that just goes so far to healing shame and healing just the pain of addiction. I know this just from my own personal experience, let alone all the guys who are in my community and the stories I've heard from other people, but the times where I've been deeply ashamed or deeply embarrassed about something, and I've gone to a safe space, to a friend or to my community, to a men's group, and I've been able to share that, it lifts so much of the weight of shame. So that is a super important critical step, is to seek out community, seek out connection. The next one is to know that you're not alone. And this again helps break free from that feeling of I'm the only one who struggles with this. Just knowing that whatever it is you're going through, you are not the only person who is going through that. Porn addiction is a great example for so many of us, and this was me as well. If we're struggling with porn addiction, even though we might know other people watch porn, there's this feeling like, I'm uniquely messed up, and I'm the only one who really struggles with this. And if you can know that you're not alone, again, that goes so far in helping you heal from shame. Now, the final tidbit I'm going to share is a little bit controversial. And that is that when you are experiencing the mountain of shame on top of you, the weight of shame, of feeling really bad for something you did, it can be helpful to reflect on the positive aspects of healthy shame, of pro-social shame. And there is a concept in Buddhism called the two guardians of the world. And there are these two mental qualities that are seen to be the guardians of the world. They're these two wholesome or skillful qualities that are protecting us. And they are moral dread and moral shame. And what that means, moral dread, is this feeling of, if I do this unskillful thing, if I do this immoral thing, wise people will shun me. That's moral dread. Moral shame is, I have done this unskillful thing, and if wise people knew, they would judge me or shun me. That sense of moral shame of, I've done something unskillful and I feel the pain of that, is a guardian. It's the thing that actually stops us from causing more harm in the world. You know, when you've done something that caused harm, you need a little bit of that reminder of feeling kind of bad about that to prevent you from doing that same harm in the world again. And that is the positive side of shame that people don't talk about. There is such a thing as healthy shame or pro-social shame. We just have to make sure that it doesn't get sucked into toxic shame, you know, the kind of shame that makes us feel like I am a bad person. So the difference there is, healthy shame is, hey, I did an unskillful thing and I feel bad about it. That's good. You know, we want that. Toxic shame is, I did an unskillful thing, therefore I'm inherently broken, and if people knew the truth about me, they would hate me, that kind of thing. So that's the final little tip I have, is when you're feeling the mountain of shame, to recognize, oh, this is a guardian. This is this feeling of heaviness. It's there to prevent me from causing more harm. It's there to prevent me from making that mistake again, if it's something that actually was a mistake. So that can be the final little tip there. So that's it for today, folks. Some tips on how to deal with shame when it feels heaviest, when you're really experiencing that heaviness and want to just isolate. These are some of the things that can really help you out. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you like this, make sure to check out this other video I have about what I would do if I were starting porn addiction from scratch today. So, see you guys on the next episode.